What is going on, Movie Meals? Movie Meals. Thank you, Movie Meal patrons. Get it off right off the bat. Guys, this is our podcast, episode 3. We got a lot of things to talk about. Go get some merch. Comment below. Check out the clip outs. Thanks for subscribing, which we would love people to do. It has yet to happen. But the clip outs are fun. Um, but here we go. We got a couple topics today that we wanted to talk about. Um, I want to touch on this first just because I think we'll get it out of the way. Um, and that is people not understanding Star Wars. So we talked a lot about Star Wars in the first 2 episodes. This will probably be the only Star Wars topic, although I'll always find a way to bring it back.
You will.
But so the actress, I can't remember her last name, Moses something, for Obi-Wan Kenobi, who plays
Was it
Reva.
Ingram? Moses?
Moses Ingram, you are correct, who plays Reva the Inquisitor, got attacked. She came on, made an Instagram live, and talked about hundreds of DMs, personal direct messages about how she needs to die, about how calling her the N-word, all these things, disgusting things, because people don't like the character. And I hate that this is happening again, that we have not learned from this. They did it to Kelly Marie Tran, where she quit social media because they didn't like the character. And anyone who attacks an actor or actress for a role and is just racist and disgusting, they don't even understand what Star Wars is and what it means and the meaning behind it. We are in a galaxy with aliens. Like, there is a walking carpet hanging out with Han Solo, who's probably your favorite character sitting in your basement. Um, there is an absolute place for every race, for every ethnicity in Star Wars. I love that they are casting powerful, strong women in roles, and at times, I think Reva can be a bit goofy, and I think that's more on the writing. But I think she's doing a incredible job as an actress in this role. I think there have been some parts that I've really liked with her character, and I think she is a great new addition to Star Wars. And if anything, it made me like her even more because people were hating on her so much in a disgusting, horrible way. Ian McGregor had to come out and made a video about it. And then Gina Carano started trending on Twitter because somebody was like, where was the cast and where was everybody when Gina Carano got fired from Star Wars and attacked with horrible comments? And it was like, well, she shouldn't have been attacked in the way she was. Gina Carano was attacked in a bad way too. Gina Carano also said some horrible things and pushed misinformation, did a lot of horrible stuff on social media. And people are attacking Moses for being alive, and that is disgusting and horrible. What do you got on this? I mean, I know you agree, but what are your thoughts here?
I'm tired of fandoms, man. I
Me
just
too. The toxic
I
fandom. I'm tired of the toxicity. That's what I
yes.
hate.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. It is, and it's unfortunately they're vocal, but I really believe that it's a small group of them. But whether
It
it's
is.
small or not, I can't imagine the feeling of being piled on like that just because of your race, your gender, your sexuality, whatever it may be. Like that, there's no way I could imagine like that type of scenario, but I was very impressed how based on her video, she just handled it with grace and confidence,
Mm-hmm.
and
Absolutely.
it's just it again, it blows my mind. Like I can't imagine being able to do and handle it so well as she has so far. And look, I mean, I'm not gonna speak on the character itself. I don't want to dogpile on the criticism. I've been liking her fine in the role, but you don't there is a difference between not liking a character in a fictional story versus attacking a person, a
Mm-hmm.
person who is real. I just am shocked that people don't understand how to separate the two. Like just because you don't like the character doesn't mean you have to attack the person playing it. Like it's just their job. They're trying to do the best they can, and sometimes it works for some people, sometimes it doesn't. And you can not like it or you can like it, but at the end of the day, there is absolutely no reason to go and attack someone for who they are.
Yep.
So it just it makes me sad, man. Again, I hate that
I hate this.
fandom is like this. I know
Yep.
that it's small, but it's vocal, and it just scares me that
That we're still having this
they
problem.
yeah, that we still have this problem. It's really
I
frustrating.
mean, it
Yeah.
obviously is. I mean, there's just, I hate it. More people are waking up to how to act as actual human beings and adults, and I hope more and more continue because it's just, it's gross. Moses is an incredible actress. She is doing exactly what they are asking her to do. I saw a lot of people like Ahmad Best, who played Jar Jar Binks, who was obliterated back in the day,
Mhm.
tweeted and said kind of like a welcome to the hate club, like you are doing nothing but a beautiful and brilliant job, you know, I love you and everything you're doing. He said stuff like that, and I just,
Well,
I mean, look at Jake Lloyd, like
yeah.
it's
Yeah.
not, I mean, yes, the racism huge problem and everything like that too, but like this fandom is so toxic. If they don't like you a little, then they hate you and they will give you death threats, and it's disgusting, and it's just,
Attacked a
I mean,
child. Yeah.
Jake Lloyd, they attacked a child to the point where he was bullied, harassed in school. He turned to substance abuse. He, like, it's, well, you agree? My cat agrees. Uh they I hate it. I hate these fans in Star Wars. You're not a fan of Star Wars. You don't understand anything that Star Wars is about, whether you can name all of Legends characters in a deep novel or not. You have no idea what Star Wars is about, and I don't think you ever will. And it's sad. But all right, let's switch topics here to something. I don't know if this will be light, but let's switch
Let's find
to The
out.
Boys. If you have not watched The Boys, we watched first 3 episodes. We might dabble into spoilers here, so a tentative spoiler warning. You know, but this show, man, it's it's back.
Woo!
um, yeah, it's back. So what you think, Kyle? What were your thoughts on it? I mean, I love the show. I think it's great, but what do you think? You were late to the
Oh,
party on this show too.
I was
Years of
like with
recommendations from me, but Kyle still won't listen.
like with most shows, I'm always late to the party. But when I arrive, I have a good time. And with the boys, I'm having a great time, man. Like this show just knows how to be its true authentic self and how to keep pushing the story forward in creative ways, in interesting ways, in character driven ways, and it just keeps topping itself one season after the other. So far, the beginning of this season with its first 3 episodes, man, I love it. Like, not only just, in terms of the action and the gore, but also just with, the way that they treat characters, whether it's, characters that we like, such as Huey, or whether characters that we just absolutely despise, like Homelander, they're able to find ways to make us feel both sides of the spectrum with them. Like, we can be frustrated with them, we can hate a character, but we can also, like, feel compassionate and sympathy, even if it's just like a slight bit when it comes to like,
Mm-hmm.
the villain characters, especially. But on top of that, it also just knows how to poke uh, um, fun at the
Superheroes.
current state of the world, whether it's the political points of view on both sides, but in terms of entertainment as well. Like it just does a really great job at being self-aware of the world that it's able to incorporate it into this fictional show without feeling like it's trying to make us learn a lesson, without it making it feel like it's being too pushy in terms of like what it's trying to say. It just does a really good job at making it feel organic to the world that this show sets in. And I just have really been enjoying it. Like you can just tell that everyone is on their A game, from the writers to the actors, that they just know what they're in and they know how to keep uh, pushing the envelope more and more each episode. So if you love the show, you're still gonna love the show because immediately
Mm-hmm.
it reminds you why the
You're
show
back
is
in.
great. Yeah,
Yeah, it's the characters, man, for me. The characters are just so great. It's the best adult superhero show I think out there. And Amazon really lets them go crazy. I mean,
yeah,
playing on the Thanos theory is something I didn't expect 11 minutes into the first episode. So,
yeah.
I remember being like, "Oh my god." But yeah, it's uh it's a great show. The characters really are what drive it. And it's gotten to the point where it's not just Carl Urban. I mean, everybody's bringing their A game. The first 3 episodes were so good because we're starting to see Homelander be like, I don't care what you'll do. I'll
Becoming
wipe
more and
out half the
more.
United States if I want to. Like, and I
Yeah.
love that I guess this is some spoilers, but I said tentative spoiler. Um, the thing I really loved about that scene is he says, I like being loved. I want to be loved, but I'll be hated if you're going to force me to be hated, and I will wipe out everyone on this planet. And
Yeah.
to me, it's such an interesting angle. We've tried this dark version of Superman so many times, and this is by far the best. I think it's really funny that, what's the actor's name? Jason Eccles, who's playing Soldier Boy. Is that the
Oh
correct
yeah,
actor?
Jadenson. I'm sure Supernatural fans will come after us,
They'll
but
correct
I just
us.
don't. I don't know how to pronounce the name, but I think
I
it's
haven't seen
Jensen.
him in a lot. I know he auditioned for Captain America back in the day, so I think it's
Mm,
really funny that now he's playing this character. And it's like, I love the real plays on these superheroes. Like a guy from that day and age who just walks up to any woman. He's being a womanizer, he's being gross. He's
misogynistic, yeah,
misogynistic,
as he would
racist.
be. Yeah,
Yeah, it's more realistic to the time period and kind of that character or whatever, I guess. And
it
I
was a
just
really
think
good flashback scene with him too, with
it
that
was
character.
great.
Yeah.
And I'm really curious what they're gonna do with him. And everything. So, uh, yeah, I'm digging the heck out of this show. I can't believe it's back. There is a lot on television right now.
Hmm.
What else you
For sure.
watching? Let's we finish the boys up here. What else you watching? I'm curious.
Yeah, well, we just did our Stranger Things season 4 review, so I
Stranger
finished that.
Things, Obi-Wan's
I
out. What else?
Obi-Wan too. I actually finally watched Showtime, the Lakers,
Such a good
the show
show.
about the 80s Lakers
Such a
dynasty.
good show.
Yeah. Yeah, I was really impressed by that show in particular. Right now I'm also watching Barry, and Young
Me
Justice
too.
is wrapping up, so I'm finishing season 4 of that.
For
Hopefully it
good.
can be renewed for a season 5. That would be
Mm.
terrific. But
Yeah.
that's about what I've been watching lately, but even still, like, that's more
Yeah.
television than I usually watch throughout the years. I just don't get into wanting to be so focused on television as I am with movies. So, but
Yeah.
that's what's on my watch list right now.
I always try to keep up with TV. I hung out with a bunch of friends the other day when I kind of had a lull in TV. I was starting an anime that I was liking, but was very long, and I was like, I don't know. I think I know Obi-Wan was coming. I knew Stranger Things. I knew Barry was coming, which I'm watching right now. And I was like,
Mm.
I might take a break. Somebody suggested Winning Time for me on HBO. Watch that. Love
Winning time,
that.
not showtime.
Um, and a couple people suggested Candy to me, which has wrapped up and finished on Hulu. So I started that. I also just today or yesterday finished Under the Banner of Heaven with Andrew Garfield, a limited series on Hulu, which was very good. That and Candy. If you're a fan of The Sinner, if you're a fan of True Detective, if you're a fan of those type of shows, especially more of a cop show like True Detective, it's really good. And Andrew does a great job. It's also got who's the Avatar guy? Sam
Oh,
Worthington.
Worthington? Yeah.
He's in it. He's great. Kurt Russell's son is in it from kid, or our for he's in Falcon and
Oh,
Winter Soldier.
yeah, yeah.
He's
It's
in
Wyatt
Overlord.
Russell. Yeah.
Wyatt Russell. He's great in this. It focuses on, I think, a true story of kind of some Mormons who kind of go crazy and they're murdering people because they think God's
Oh.
telling them to. And he's a Mormon in Utah solving this case and he's questioning his faith and everything. And it is an excellent show. I really enjoyed it. And since I'm talking about it, and I want to make sure I get his name right, so I'm going to look it up because I really want to give a shout out to his partner um, in the show. Let's see here.
I've never heard of this show Candy, but it has Jessica Biel and Justin
Oh,
Timberlake?
it's by the guy who made The Sinner. Yeah. You didn't hear about it? I'm
Huh.
pretty sure we talked about it.
No, I never have heard about this. It's on
Gil
Hulu?
Birmingham
Hmm.
is excellent in it. And I love what they do touching on him. And I love the angle of in Under the Banner of Heaven because it's so much faith-based related on Mormonism. And his partner is Native American. And I really loved that because they're in such a beautiful part of the country. They have so many talks about faith, atheism, different religions, and it's a very good show. Candy is very good. I'm probably halfway through it. I'm really enjoying it. Yeah, it's by the guy with the sinner. Justin Timberlake is in it too. Didn't know
Hmm.
that till I got a couple episodes in. I was like, oh my gosh, here he is. I didn't. It took me a second to be like, is that him? Because he's got a big mustache. Oh, it's amazing.
Huh.
But the show is pretty good.
Nice.
It's got one of the actresses from Yellow Jackets in it as well, and I loved Yellow Jackets, which is another show I was watching. A lot of good shows out right now, though. I Let's switch to another topic here. Speaking of shows and things,
This could lead into it. Yeah.
so I'm gonna lead into Netflix here. Stopping. This might be a shorter episode today, but Netflix announces that they're stopping of certain productions. I want to make sure I texted Kyle the specific wording, so I'm gonna make sure I. Let's see here. Do. What did they say here?
From
They're
what you
canceling
told,
vanity projects, is what the
yeah.
quote was, and they said a la The Irishman. And I think that screams to everybody that they're canceling passion projects. Well, they're at least canceling big, massive, budgeted passion projects. The Irishman was a
Yeah.
huge budgeted movie, and The Irishman's good. To me, though, I mean, I don't know the numbers. Maybe The Irishman wasn't watched a lot, but those type of projects are not what probably should be being canceled. And I think it's an interesting place where the streaming wars is now, and I'd like to touch on it. So let's get into the streaming wars here. Kyle, I'm just curious, what do you rank the streaming services? So we have Amazon, we have Apple, we have Netflix, HBO, Hulu, Disney Plus, I think are the top 6 really competitors. There's Peacock, there's a couple others. I think CBS had one for a day. But
Paramount Plus.
Paramount Plus for an
iCarly season
hour.
2.
Hey baby, it's elite. They're adults now. They talk about adult things.
Ooh.
I'm keeping those out of there because I don't think they're in the discussion. For
No, probably
for
not.
for heavy hitters yet. They haven't proven themselves. So those
Sure.
6, how do you rank them?
Um, in terms of me personally, I've really been enjoying HBO Max. I think some of the user elements of it isn't quite up to par. I think they could do some tweaking to improve it, but otherwise, I just am in favor of its content, and I think it's organized well enough to where I don't feel like I'm getting lost within the sea of content. Like it's a robust library, but I don't feel overwhelmed by it.
I
So I think
agree.
for me, yeah, that's at the top. And I gotta say, I think Amazon Prime might be next.
Is that
That's what it's
just
called.
because the boys?
I mean,
You're
between
high
the
off the
boys,
boys right now?
I mean, they do a good job at not having like an overabundance within their library. They do a really good job at keeping it tight to where it's focused so much on making the shows the highest quality possible, and it
Yeah,
feels like there isn't a bad one on there. I mean, between the boys, I actually watched the Jack Reacher show recently,
I
which
also have
I really enjoyed it. I'm happy for that actor too, Alan Richson. I think that's how you pronounce his last
yep.
name. That dude's been killing it for a while, and I'm glad he finally gets his due.
Mhm.
Anyway, that was just a side note.
That show's
Uh,
awesome.
but Amazon's been impressing me, and I think that's the same with Apple as well. I actually canceled my Apple subscription, but
I just did the other day, but it's only because I'm not watching anything on Apple right now. There's no Ted
yeah,
Lasso. I liked Dickinson a lot. I wasn't
I've
big
heard
into
Severance is
Steve.
really good. Like it's
I've heard it's
really
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 good.
good.
Defending Jacob was really good. Severance, ooh, maybe when everything calms down, I will re-up it. But I needed
Yeah,
to maybe save a couple months of money as TV will be dying down, and I'll do Apple later. But I agree with you on
yeah.
their content. So you
But
go
my
you go right now. You got HBO, Amazon, Apple in that order, huh? Put Apple at 3.
yeah yeah. Just in terms of what they have available, and then honestly, I like Hulu and Disney Plus about the same. And then Netflix right now, I think it's just at the bottom. To be
Bottom.
honest, I
Bottom.
don't really watch
Yep.
much Netflix anymore. I can't really
Nope.
think. I mean, aside from Stranger Things, I don't really know what I see on there that I really makes me
You weren't
excited.
an
Like
Ozark
there's more
guy,
stuff.
right, though? You weren't an
Huh?
Ozark guy. You didn't watch
No,
Ozark?
I never got into
Ozark
Ozark.
is great, and I
How
liked the
was
ending. A lot of people didn't like it. I liked it.
Oh, okay.
Great. I
Hmm,
really liked
okay.
Ozark. I have it in my top 10 of all-time favorite TV shows. So
Oh.
far. I think it's up there.
So far in your
But
lifetime.
yes.
Anyway,
Not counting anime.
that's how I view the landscape of the streamers right now.
I think that's why Netflix is making big moves. I agree HBO's at the top. I think HBO, if you're talking user friendly, Netflix is still the king of that. Oh, you forgot Disney. Did you say Disney?
I said it
Disney
was
Plus?
about the same with Hulu. One could be over the other. They have,
Okay.
they have stuff
I
and it's
uh
good.
I I think HBO is the top in terms of content. I think they put out banger after banger. I think they they do. I think it's a pretty solid site. I think it's decently user friendly. I don't think it's as good as Netflix, but I don't usually have problems with it myself. Every now and then some weird glitch happens. I can't get to a new episode or something. But for the most part, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
They have a great library. Um, they've got some really good animes. That's another thing is the Switch streaming wars are hitting me with some good animes that are coming out that they're making. Because Netflix tried, but they've made some good ones. But like Amazon's made a great one. I would agree that Amazon is too. I'm thinking Marvelous Miss Maisel, Elite. Jack
Oh,
Reacher was
jeez.
great.
Oh, that season was so good of Miss
John
Maisel.
Krasinski in the other Jack movie, Jack
Jack
Ryan,
Reacher? Jack
great
Ryan.
show.
Yes.
Reacher's great. So there's three. The Boys, great. Invincible, great. Vinland Saga for an anime is great. Those are six shows that are great. That instantly put them over Netflix.
Mhm.
Um, for me. And after that, I would probably go Hulu myself because Hulu has a solid library of anime. They've got really good shows under the banner of heaven. They've got some good documentaries. HBO has some good documentaries too. That's the one thing Netflix I think is still the king of is documentaries. And I think that's why
Hmm.
it's keeping people is they just the other day, a bunch of people were like, have you not seen this documentary on Netflix? Oh my gosh, it's so good. Or this documentary or this documentary. And I was like, oh my gosh, calm down on the docuseries. Uh,
Shut up,
go watch, go
nerds.
watch, go watch, go watch Star Wars, the Clone Wars. I'll say Hulu right there. And then I probably would put Apple right below it. And it's only because Apple, I think, has some really good hitters. But like for some reason, I stopped watching now I can't even remember the name of the show, the one with Jennifer Aniston.
Oh,
Uh,
Good Morning
Good
Show? The Good
Morning,
Morning
the morning show. Yes, I
Morning
watched
Show, yeah.
season 2. I got 3 eps in. Was like, this is pretty good, but they are so bad. They are the worst in terms of user friendly, and I don't think it's close. That
Mm,
that
okay.
I stopped watching because I was getting annoyed with it. I wonder if they've gotten better because the platform looked a little different when I logged in the other day to cancel my subscription. But their
Huh.
content, I loved. Dickinson, I thought was great. Ted Lasso is arguably the best TV show on TV right now.
Ted Lasso.
Um,
My
guess what
heart.
else Amazon has? Yellow Jackets because they partnered with FX. So that is
Oh.
another huge play for Amazon. Um,
Does Hulu not have FX anymore? Did I miss that?
I think they do as well. Maybe
They
it's
do as
not
well?
FX.
Okay.
I might be thinking Showtime or something. That's where I
Oh, it
watch
could
Yellow
be.
Jackets. So they have that. But Hulu, that's a good point. Hulu has some great FX shows. Atlanta,
Mhm.
which I am rewatching. I watched season 1 a while back, and now I'm kind of catching back up on it too, which is another show
Sure.
I've been watching. Um, but I would do Apple next because I think Ted Lasso is one of the best shows on TV. I really like Dickinson. They've had a couple solid movies. I've heard good things about Severance. I really like Defending Jacob with Chris Evans. So I might have checked the Severance show out. Is that the horror show with M. Night Shyamalan?
No, it's,
Because that show
I'm
is
pretty
supposed to
sure
be
it's
really
Severance.
good. That show is supposed to be really good.
I'm thinking of the Ben Stiller directed show with,
Oh God, you
Adam
lost
Scott
me.
in the lead.
Oh, you're losing me, but quick. Oh man, I
No,
haven't
it's
been.
not from what I've heard, it's not like a Ben Stiller comedy or anything like that. Like,
It's
I've been
more.
hearing absolutely
I've
terrific
heard
things
good
about
things.
Severance. Yeah, it
Man,
is
now
called
you're making me
Severance.
want to re-up my. I actually have a subscription for a while. This is the one with Adam Scott. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. No,
Wow.
it's like one of the shows I hear about the most on Twitter probably, and
And
I'm pretty
Ben
sure the
Stiller
show.
directed it. He didn't write any of it, but he directed it. He must be a producer.
Yeah,
Wow.
I think the show got pitched to him if for his production company, if
All
I had
right.
to
I,
guess.
I think Ben Stiller's actually a pretty okay director. I think he's very overrated in Hollywood, and I've never been a huge fan of his humor. But man, I
Mm,
have it till July. Maybe we just tune in a little Severance here. Maybe give it a shot.
Yeah,
Uh, I have
might be
heard
up your
good
alley.
things too. I have heard good things about the show as well. I just have not had a chance. Apple TV just doesn't market, I think, as well. Um,
Yeah,
but
that's
I
their
do think they're
problem.
they're competing. They came out with guns blazing with Ted Lasso. Everybody and their mom watches Ted Lasso.
Yeah.
Um, then I would do Disney Plus. I would put it. I think Hulu is far and above ahead of it right now. Um, I think Disney Plus has great shows. I love all the Marvel and Disney stuff. But what am I watching? I mean, I watch it all the time because I'm on Disney Plus maybe once a couple times a week because I teach children and sometimes we'll put on a movie or something at the end of the week or something like that if we've earned it, and that's the place to go for kids stuff. But what else are you putting out? Like, I watched the Jeff Goldblum first season, really liked it. For some reason didn't watch second season. I know people some people really like a lot of the shows they're doing. They like the natural geographic stuff, but I just I'm missing some things. You know, Daredevil being on there big though. That's a big swing. That's a big move for Disney to compete. If they're going to put those
Sure.
type of adult series on there, then uh they've got a chance to really compete. I
For
hear
me, I
my
just
cat
view it as
snoring.
the
Will you listen?
nostalgia streaming service, you know? I mean, it's Disney. That's kind of the whole point of it.
Yeah, they're
So,
they're
I
going to
don't
change it though. They're working hard to do it.
probably they want to see how many more subscribers they can go in, but it just doesn't bother me when it doesn't really bother me when there's like, why isn't there more original content or why isn't there more adult content? It's like, well, first off, it's Disney. You're not going to quite get either of those things. And second
I
of
mean, you
all,
did.
you have, like we said, Apple, Amazon, HBO. Just
Yeah.
cancel Netflix,
I'm
get one of
not
those other ones, and you'll be
I-
fine.
I'm not
Like, there you
hammering
go.
for it. I'm not hammering for it, but that's what's going to get me to tune in more. You got to put out
Sure.
some other things that aren't just these big properties, but that's what they're there for, and I think they know that. And plus, they're getting the money from Hulu anyway. They own the other streaming service that I have two
Yeah.
spots ahead. But
Yeah.
Netflix is last, and it's because Netflix puts out crap after crap after crap. And even something like Stranger Things that we just reviewed very positively, it's the best season since season one for you and I. It's just Netflix came out of the gate swinging with a cool, innovative idea. Release
Hmm.
everything, give the people everything they want all at once. And then Netflix went, holy crap, we can't compete in the media market. Our PR is awful. And they have some good shows. They've got Narcos, that's pretty big. Ozark was very good. I mean, if Kevin Spacey isn't a total horrible human, then House of Cards continues to, I think, go longer and be as big as it was. Because after he and all that stuff happened, that show tanked in viewers and quality.
Yeah.
Um, Shows like that, but they put out bad movie after bad movie or average movie. Like the Adam Project was a really cool idea and it was just an okay movie. You know, like
Sure.
where The Irishman's a really good movie, but who's watching a 3 hour snooze fest for a lot of people? You know what I mean? Like they, I get why they're canceling passion projects, but they're losing subscribers. They expected to add a lot, and the pandemic didn't help because they added a bunch, and they were like, we're going to keep this going. And then they didn't, but they lost. They're the only ones losing subscribers from what I've been seeing in reports. Nobody else is losing subscribers, really. They're pretty
Not
much
to the degree.
maintaining. Not to
Not
that
to the
degree, no.
degree. Yeah.
But
Well, I think it's very interesting. Netflix was the first, you know, and it did a really good job at knowing that it was the first and knowing to invite
yes,
people not only with the binging format of viewership, but also with really excellent high quality television that you weren't getting from cable. And you know,
like their
that's what
first
House of
Stranger
Cards
Things,
was.
yep, House
And
of Cards, Orange is the New Black was a great show for quite a while for the
yeah,
first couple
exactly.
seasons.
But over time, they got into the idea of having an overabundance of things, a robust library to where no matter what there was for any sort of person, anything could be available. But over time, they kind of lost their way
They
in
lost
knowing
it
how
all.
to market everything and also how to organize it to where it's not overwhelming to the consumer. And due to the pandemic, we just got a boost in all of these other companies
Hmm.
getting into the streaming game. Then we got Disney Plus a little bit before the pandemic, but there was the HBO Max, there was the Paramount Plus, Apple TV started getting a boost in what they were doing. Same with
Hulu was
Amazon.
around and kicking.
And with the pandemic and with all of the shutdowns and having to be in quarantine, everyone probably got the majority of all the streaming services. And
Yep.
over time, as time has gone on and the pandemic has waned,
What are you watching
for
more
what it
now?
is now, and more people aren't really tuning into television and aren't getting into all these streaming services. They're back kind of doing their normal everyday routine of life again. They've kind of got a sense of the landscape of the streaming landscape, and they realize that Netflix isn't really that good as compared to some of these other things. And I think it's going to show when they're seeing a decline in so many subscribers and within their stocks as well. And it's just what they were kind of harping on in this recent article, that um, they're going to be doing a change when it comes to how to release stuff. They're going to do fewer movies and not, a new movie every month.
every
But now they still
week
have to
or
learn how
whatever,
to advertise better,
and make a good
but
movie.
and make a good movie. But fewer will be better, I think. Like they kind of got so lost in the way of doing so much that eventually so much of it all just started looking like crap, and they were like, well, it's working, so keep doing it. But over time that gets old really fast.
Yeah, and they held on too long to big properties. What made Netflix great was that people just put it on in the background. But
You know.
I mean, losing Friends and losing The Office and Parks and Rec hit
Hmm.
them hard, hard. I know
Yeah.
people who were like, "No, the second it left, I canceled Netflix and I went and got Peacock." And Peacock stinks. Like, uh,
Just
it's
get the disc, guys.
there is there is one. Netflix also had a problem of they would go find something somewhere that somebody made, and then they would buy it, and then they'd slap it on and be like, "We made this. It's pretty good, huh?" People are like, "No, you didn't make that." But there is one thing Netflix had that really helped, and that was Squid Game. Squid
Okay.
Game, I mean, they did that. They bought it, they brought it over
Hmm.
to the US, and they were the distributor of it, and they call it a Netflix original. But I believe now they are actually having a hand in what is the second season. But Squid Game is the only thing I can truly think of since Stranger Things season 1 that truly took over the narrative for longer than the weekend it was out and the first week. Like Squid Game was around for 3 months. My children who are 10 years old were talking about Squid Game, not 10, they're
Oh.
6. We're talking
Oh.
about Squid Game because they were watching it with their parents.
Don't
Oh
like
yeah,
that.
it's no, it's not good, but that's what
Don't
I'm
like
saying
that.
though, is that how big of a show it was, because the parents for my kids are not the type I would think to watch a really good Korean made drama, dark
Dark
Hunger
thriller.
Games type
Yeah.
movie or show, you know
Uh-huh.
what I mean?
Yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah.
they had that going for them. They have a deal with AMC. That helps because AMC has some great shows. Breaking Bad, Better Call Saul, which are both in
Walking
my top
Dead.
4 shows of all time. Walking Dead, which is still very popular even though it's ending. But those things are helping keep Netflix afloat, I think, but those aren't Netflix original, and even AMC has a package where you can just subscribe to them and watch just
Mhm.
their stuff. So, and one of the downfalls is too though is Amazon is saying, "Hey, Yellow Jackets, I loved your show. I will also air it the same week and give you a certain amount of the profits." Netflix and AMC or AMC saying, "No, no, no, we want the profits. You can air it the day before the next season comes out. You can air the last season." And that's also a bummer. It puts you a year behind everything. So,
Sure.
yeah, Netflix they are struggling, and I'm okay with it. I'm never on it. And also I don't know
Yeah.
if their platform is as user friendly anymore because sometimes
I would say
like
not.
trailers pop up and it's like shut up.
Like
I
literally the other day, I was talking about RRR because I finally got to see it on Netflix, but I had to go digging through it, and the first trailer that popped up was Forrest Gump. Look, I like Forrest Gump. I don't need a trailer to tell me that Forrest Gump is on Netflix. Like, that's
yeah,
not what you should be using your front homepage for, guys.
yeah.
You know what I
Although
mean? Like,
the
it's just
Amazing Spider-Man got added to Netflix this weekend and it is now the number 1 watch thing on Netflix. And
that's
that's
not
the problem.
that's not surprising.
That's the problem, though. That's the
It,
problem. They have
mhm.
to get an IP somewhere else because Stranger Things is starting to go. No one's talking about it. That's why they're splitting the seasons. That's why a show like Arcane that got all the nerds to talk about it released episodic. They released it in a few episodes, or they held the last 2 episodes, and they held Ozark for 2 months, and they're holding Stranger Things for a month because they have to. They have to have their big properties in the media narrative so people remember to watch and then rewatch. Like I'm thinking of rewatching Stranger Things. I haven't been on Netflix in that long in a while. Like, are
Mhm.
you kidding me? Like that's what they're doing because they know they can't compete with something. And the boys though, Amazon coming out and being like, "Hey, Stranger Things? Nah, we're done with you. Boys time." And now the narrative's changing again. And
Yeah.
it's just an interesting. I love the streaming wars debate because it is just cable. It's just not direct TV
It's
anymore.
it's looped back
It's the
and turned
same
into
thing.
cable.
It's
Yeah.
the same thing. You can get a bundle for a bunch of things, but it's what are you going to pay for to get the content you want? But half the time I'm paying for everything. And people are like, "Oh, you should cancel this, cancel that or whatever." But, all the streaming services cost still a little bit less than cable. So,
The
and even
canceling
some
thing
of
is
those.
the
What?
canceling thing is also a good point. Netflix has is really fickle about uh um not fickle, that's not the right word. They're really bad about canceling stuff too
Like
soon.
Glow?
Oh god, don't
Why
remind
don't
me.
you
That's
put
still
why don't you put more money behind Glow? Put some marketing behind Glow and get people to watch one of the best shows on TV in the last 5 years. What
it's
the
just
heck?
it's become a problematic formula that they've accustomed to. They think they need
Yep.
everything, so they get everything, but they don't let the everything last on long because they see the numbers and that the viewership isn't there. So then they buy more stuff to replace the other stuff, but the same routine happens, and it all leads back to a streaming service that isn't good at advertising itself. They're not good at marketing outside of the streaming service, and the platform just isn't good at getting rid of the overwhelming nature of searching through stuff. I mean, how many times, in all honesty, that you're digging through Netflix trying to find something, but then you eventually go back to watching the same thing.
Yeah,
You
all the
know, it
time. And I get to
yeah,
the end of Netflix now. Like if I search horror, I'll get to an end of just weird bad movies. And then it's like, why don't I just go get that horror streaming service for like $3 for the
sure.
night just to
Hmm.
watch the movie I want or whatever. It's yeah, Netflix, they are struggling. And I think I think of all these passion projects they're gonna get rid of. They they just need to make good quality content. That's the problem. H Amazon is putting out great quality content. I don't imagine Reacher cost more than the last season of Stranger Things. Like I don't imagine that it's or the last big thing they put out. They need
Hmm.
to and they need to put things in theaters. Like they're doing that Adam Sandler basketball movie in theaters, which I actually think kind of looks cool and I'm interested to see Adam Sandler in another serious role. But I think they need to be better at what they're marketing because all the other shows or all the other places are so limited that they they have so few content that they advertise so much more of it on different things. They're putting them in front of movie theaters and things like that. Like Amazon owns Cinemark's like put your phone down ad. Like it's all
Hmm.
the people from Amazon saying, "Hey, put your phone down" or whatever.
Hmm.
Um HBO also though too puts out great content. Like I think of the Taika Waititi show, the Flags of Our Deaths or whatever, or
Yeah,
the
fantastic
pirate thing.
show.
It's a
Our flag means
great
death.
show. It's a
Yeah.
great show. It's hysterical. It was the number one show in all platforms when it was coming out. Came out weekly and fans watched it because they gave Taika a passion project. Passion projects can work, but you
Hmm.
got to get the right people and you got to make sure you're making the right stuff because now they're renewed for a season 2 and I'm excited to see a show about pirates. Like also though, Netflix, the two things they do the best, still I think, is documentaries and docuseries and stand-up comedy. It's the two things that they really own, but even the stand-up is starting to, I think, move to other places. HBO's always had some great stand-up specials, and they're starting to get more into it. Other networks are too. I think
Hmm.
that's been big for them, but um they are they also were running anime for a while, and that was huge.
Yeah.
But now Sony has one streaming service and it's Crunchyroll and Funimation and they've combined
Hmm.
them to make where you can watch everything you want and that's going to be the most dominant thing. And the other networks like they put like One Piece and Naruto on there. Great shows, people are going to rewatch them. That Netflix tried their best, but other shows, other places have snagged either the rights to make them or produce them or they've snagged the rights to release them uh on their platform. Like Hulu has My Hero Academia, which is one of the most popular um animes out right now. Like the market is changing and Netflix is losing and everybody else is keeping up. And Disney would struggle if they didn't have these massive budgeted shows, but they do, so they're doing okay. But it is funky. Do you want to get to our last topic here before we go, or are you good?
No, I want to keep talking about Netflix actually, because I'm
Okay.
because I'm very curious about how them releasing theatrically is going to work out. Now to be clear, they have released stuff theatrically in the past, especially with the vanity projects, which are
But
described
it
as
wasn't huge
no, because they released them to a limited amount of locations, and
for
especially, and it's more
Oscars.
of the movie marketplaces such as LA, New York, so that way they can qualify for the
Oscars.
Oscar accolades.
Yeah.
So I'm very curious to see if they actually decide to do actual wide releases. I know that there were kind of rumors that they want to do that for like movies such as Knives Out 2, which I think would be stupendous. But I don't think Netflix quite knows yet how to work within the theatrical distribution game. I don't think they have, I mean, they already don't have like the marketing prowess to make themselves stand out when it comes to advertising uh their own content on their own streaming service. So I'm kind of worried that they won't really know what to do with advertising for theatrical. But also, I believe they don't have a division to where they know how to distribute these movies out correctly to theaters. So it's going to be
I
very
think they're
interesting
testing
to
it.
see those growing pains.
I think they're
What was that?
testing it with this Adam Sandler movie because it's supposed to be a wide release. It's a Netflix produced movie. It's his fourth movie of that
Okay.
five deal he made. I did
Okay.
I wouldn't have known this movie existed, but I have seen the ads at the movie theater
Hmm.
for it. And if Top Gun, which just had the lowest drop in history of any movie from one weekend to the next of
Fantastic.
any movie, is
Fantastic.
proving anything, it's that the movie theaters are not dying. That you don't have to be big budgeted. Yes, it's a sequel. Yes, it's a former property, but I think they're showing that you can do that. And if you Netflix, if you really want to get money, put Stranger Things the last two episodes in theaters worldwide. Put them in
Hmm.
theaters. You'll make a ton of money. I would kill
Yeah.
to go see that on the big screen. You're shooting them for the big screen. They're filmed for the big screen. Why are they
Hmm.
not on my big screen? I mean, they're on my
Hmm.
80-inch TV, but why can't they be on the 1,000th inch TV?
No,
That's what they need to do. I think this Adam
streaming.
Sandler movie is a test. I do. What were you going to say?
Hopefully it's a good test then. No, it makes me happy too because it's proving that Netflix isn't overtaking theaters necessarily. The content just has to be worth it to go to theaters.
Yep.
And
Yep.
there is proof and data that something that gets released in theaters that later goes on a streaming service, it gets a lot of eyes on it because whether people went to see it in theaters or not, they heard about it. There was talks about it. There was conversations, word of
Mm-hmm.
mouth. So the fact that, the crappiest streaming service right now, Netflix, is kind of learning that and it might be leaning into that, that makes me really excited about the theater industry. That makes me really hopeful for it. But I am a little worried about them canceling these vanity projects or doing less of them because the reason why these directors such as the Scorsese's went to streaming was because those were the only people that would let them
Make the
do their
movies.
projects because nowadays these studios want to do what's very reliable, what's really safe, and they're
Big
not willing to
property.
take the risks on telling original stories like they once did. But now that streaming is kind of possibly going away from that, at least with one streaming service, it kind of makes me worrisome. Like, if they can't even get it there, then where can we get it? Now, granted, there's still HBO, Amazon, and Apple, and it doesn't seem like they're gonna be turning away from them. But it makes me raise my eyebrow. It makes me want to look at this closely and see if another streaming service will take on these creators or if it will go for all of them. I just don't know yet. It's worth monitoring.
Yeah, I think it is too. And I don't get why. I mean, now that theaters are back, I hope these studios that are making hour-long uh, episodes of TV that are big and popular say, hey, for 2 nights only in the United States or worldwide, go see the final episode of Stranger Things. Limited time. You make it limited, people will go, and it won't cost you that much to send it out. They can stream it probably from their computer if they have a Netflix account at the theater. Like, give them a free access for 2 days. Give them an expired contract that'll exit, and they just plug it in on an HDMI cord. Like, it's not that difficult.
You
They
know
need to do that.
that actually wouldn't be bad for, say, a small town independent theater that might have like 2 screens to like, I don't know, 6 screens as an example. I'm not really thinking about like the chains as much, but like with those
Oh, for
smaller.
them to do events like that?
Yeah, because right now I think there is a concern that the amount of product that once went to theaters is kind of waning because a lot of these companies are also making content for streaming, and that's kind of been a priority of their focus right now, which is frustrating. But if there was a way to let these theaters not just have blank screens, but instead they could use them for, events such as like a Stranger Things event on like one screen, and then the rest of their screens could be used for the Top Guns and whatever other movies are coming out. And I don't know. I would be very curious to see if that could be a route taken, especially for like the smaller theaters. The chains are fine. I'm not too concerned about the chains. They are dealing with like less product, but they have the priority
Yeah.
over the independents.
The
So
word the word you used is
it's
correct.
interesting.
Make it an event. Like, I
Yeah.
don't like, they did that for The Walking Dead, and I remember people would go. In some theaters, Game of Thrones would go to theaters. I can't imagine the amount of money it costs to put them in theaters is that huge. And if everybody's on your streaming service anyway, you can market it on your streaming service. You don't need to do an insane amount of marketing. Use your streaming service and say, hey, if we're in theaters, check your local theater. It's probably going to be there this week for the finale. If I saw that watching something on HBO and I was like, oh my gosh, I love this show. This is one of the biggest shows ever. This is awesome. Or like
Mhm.
Apple, like Ted Lasso, the finale is going to be in the theater one night only, Friday at night. I'm going. Like, that'd be amazing. That'd be awesome. And if you really want to get people to go out and do it, you say, hey, our show drops Sunday, but we're putting it in Saturday at the
Mhm.
theater. And then people can go if they want early. And if they don't, they can wait a day. I think that's the way you do it, but it is what it is. All right. Should we wrap this up or you want to talk about the other topic for a minute here?
We keep saying this one last topic, so let's just do it.
Okay. Kyle, sex in movies and TV. Is it too much?
No.
Tell me why you brought this up to me. Tell me, because you brought this up a while ago. Why did you bring this up?
Well, film Twitter decided to get all in a twist, in a knot over the debate about, is there a need for sex
Keep
in
talking.
movies? Is there a need for sex in movies? Is it worth it for the sake of the plot, or is it worth it just for shock value? And I don't think there's literally a right or wrong answer. Like, yes, obviously there are some bad movies that use sex in their movies poorly, but there are great movies that, when it comes into play, sex can be utilized correctly to work with the plot, to work with the characters. And it's not like there's one decisive answer or not. Like, sometimes a movie is good, sometimes a movie is not good, and it just depends on how it goes. Like, just seeing and scrolling through the conversations and the reasonings behind, like, especially why no, we shouldn't have sex in movies anymore, is just really weird to me. Like, I've always been under the impression that for the past couple of years, like, we've been becoming more and more sex positive, but for some reason with these conversations it felt like people don't want it in entertainment anymore. It just is so weird to me that we're getting to that point. Like, we just don't want, I mean, not in a gross way. It's not what I'm trying to mean, but you don't want to have like a variety of experiences when it comes to your movies, it comes to your shows. I don't know. Like, I don't, that just seems boring. Not, and
Sure.
it's not just, it's not just like sex in general, but it's for other things like action, comedy, romance. Like, I don't want stuff to be boring. Like, as long as it's good and it works, then
Here's
deal with it.
here's my
I
here's
don't
my
know.
thing. You think of something like Game of Thrones that coined the term sex position, right? Of having characters have sex while they're talking about important dialogue that people might find boring, right? They're like, they
Hmm.
would
Okay.
dump dialogue, but they would put a naked girl in front of you, so you're like, oh, this scene is much more interesting now. And I think of something like that. And I'm okay with it. I think sometimes, like, I've been to film school. Everybody in film school thought they had to put sex in a movie because it felt more real, but they were also trying to be, a real filmmaker, and they weren't, and none of them are
That
making
mindset.
movies.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
um but there is a little bit of truth in what they're saying, that there are movies that it is real, that if you're making a love story, the characters are probably going to have sex. You know what I mean? Like, that's probably going to happen. Do you need to show it? There's a variety of ways you can show it and do it. It depends on how intimate you and your cast want to get as a storyteller and how comfortable they are. Here's my biggest thing.
Mm.
It needs to be equal. And I think The Boys is doing a good job of this, because it's too long just been women. And I think we need more wieners out there. You know what I mean? I think
Yeah.
I'm serious though. Like, it's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
I think of something like Game of Thrones that did it a little, but not a lot. But then there would be a naked woman everywhere to try to keep
Mhm.
your attention. And I think it needs to be more fair. I can't remember what it was. There was some show that I think was part of this conversation where it was just a ton of penises, just a ton of them. And
Oh,
I think that was part of the reason
mhm.
people were talking about this, is they were like, this is too much. I don't want to see all this. And it's like, why is it okay on one end of the spectrum and not on the other end of the spectrum? Like,
Mm.
if you're going to
Yeah.
put it in movies, if you're going to make it real, then make it real. Like, I don't want it to be porn, obviously. You don't want that. They have their own streaming services.
Which
And if
brings
you
us
want
to
to
our
talk about
sponsor.
who's winning the streaming wars, we all know who's winning that.
Yeah.
Anyway, I you don't want that. I don't think we want that in our movies. We don't want it to necessarily be NC-17 where we are just watching
To
that.
the
But you
pornographic
can. I
territory.
think
Yeah.
of a movie like, Portrait of a Lady on Fire, which is a brilliant and just incredible French film. And
Yeah.
that's another narrative to this, is different parts of the world view sex so differently than us. Like, in France, they
Yeah.
view it so much more positive than we do. And I think of a movie like that it's so beautiful and it's so loving and intimate, and there's sex in it, and there's some explicit sex in it, and it never feels like I'm crossing that line into, pornography. It feels like
Mhm.
it is actual intimacy, and the movie and the actors and the director are allowing us a window into these lives in this story that we never thought would work. I want them to do more of that um with men. I want more of that with men being able to be open.
Mhm.
And because I think it's unfair how women have been treated. So I think that is the only point where, if we got
Yeah.
rid of it, it would be like, good, let's get rid of it then for the women,
For
because
everyone,
they
for
shouldn't
all.
have
Yeah.
to do they shouldn't have to do that then. But if we're going to keep it, and I think men in Hollywood would agree, they want to keep it in a lot of
Mhm.
movies and scenes. There's some actors who say, I don't do a sex scene, I don't go topless, and that's totally okay. Or they say, I do a sex scene, but it has to be my way and all that. And I think that is exactly how they should be done. And it's just up to the comfortability of the actors and the director and the producers, and how they handle their set, and how they
Mhm.
handle it with each other. So I think it absolutely has a place. I think you're right too. It can make it boring. That's where sex position comes from. It pumps it up a little bit. Just add a wiener in there, and you're good to go. I
It ju it just makes me worried that within the bubble of film fandom, that that there's people who don't want it. I mean, sometimes it's too
They're
much. I
just
get it. I get
hard
it.
right
But
wing. You know,
I don't know. Like
they're
it
too
just
sex
feels
against.
like people are being accustomed to blandness, to not feeling
Yeah,
other ways outside of feel good forgetfulness. Am I describing it? Do
yeah.
you know what I mean when I'm describing it that way?
No,
Like
I
it,
I do know what you mean, and I think of a show like Under the Banner of Heaven, which doesn't really have sex in it. There are some
right.
moments where maybe somebody walks in through a door and they're like, "Oh my gosh," or whatever, but
Mhm.
it's not needed. You don't need it in every story. But then I think like a movie like or a movie like Moonlight, which has some sex
Mm.
scenes and some very powerful and intimate sex scenes that are very, very good. Like, those are needed in the story that they wanted to craft. And I think you need you need to keep those. I don't think sex is something that people should be afraid of. Obviously, it needs to be the right age. You need to be old enough. You need to be mature enough to understand it, to understand how it works, to understand that it's probably being over sexualized and that, might not be the way the world works. And that's another thing, though. Some movies, like a Moonlight, show it a little bit more realistic, and it's not over sexualized and it's not over the top in terms of
Right.
this is how women and men look and you have to look like this and this is how sex will
Hmm.
be. And so it can be positive in a way. So i
Yeah.
i think it has a place in Hollywood. I mean, I just watched, spoilers for The Boys, but I watched a man shrink to a little man and jump in another man's butt so he could rub his prostate. Are you telling me that didn't need to be in the show? Because it needed to be there. There was no better scene.
I mean, it wasn't the butt, but holy cow, that scene. But
What'd you say?
he went into the other hole, my friend.
Now, I got into this same conversation yesterday, and I've watched that scene twice, and
He came out from
that
the
is
front.
not what happens.
He came out from the front.
No, he didn't.
Yeah, he did.
Rewatch it.
Okay, but
But his
I'm
butt's
pretty
on the table. His butt's on the table, and then he
because
runs
it
on the table.
exploded. No, he was facing towards him. Because I
He
at first
turns around. No, you're wrong. Go rewatch it. You're 100% wrong.
okay,
I'll
I
give
don't
you
know the majority.
99 and for some humility, but I'm telling you, because
All
I
right,
thought the same thing. A friend of mine thought the same thing. We talked about it. I rewatched it and I was like, no, he does not. And when he explodes, he comes out from the rear and he runs into poop in there. He stops and smells
there's a
poop.
is- weird. Oh, well, I don't know. I'll go back and rewatch it then. But I thought it was the other hole. That was the shock for me.
As soon
But
as we're done filming, I'm pulling it up, and we're gonna stay on the air or
okay.
on the air right now. We're gonna find out. No,
Well,
let's end the
comment
show.
below. Do we have a comment section on Patreon? Comment below. Which hole was
There's a
it?
comment show. But all
Well,
right, guys, we're gonna
Holgate.
end on this hole. Nobody will watch this one.
Yeah,
But
no.
guys, what did you think of everything we talked about? Comment below, let us know. Remember, like, subscribe, share. Thank you to the meal patrons. And as always, thanks for watching, Mom.
See you guys.